Now we're rolling. Damage Plan MMA podcast. I am Jason, as always. My co-host, Mr. Zack Partridge, in the house. What up, dog?
What up?
Hey, man. We had a pretty busy weekend. Great weekend of fights. Little different this weekend. Fights were a little different scene this weekend for the Fierce Challenger Series fights.
I thought the environment and the venue was perfect. It's what I wanted.
I didn't know how the turnout was going to be at first. I'm like, okay. I mean, I felt like it could be good, and it exceeded all expectations. The crowd was going crazy. The fights were freaking bananas from fight 1 to fight 9. They were all just, everybody brought it. Mason, what's up, man? Thanks. Shout out to Mason for coming down and helping out too.
Yeah.
Mike. It was loud. It was good, man. Tanner, what's up, man? Dude, should we just start recapping it, or is there anything else you want to touch on?
Okay, I have a crazy story. I already shared it with you, but I'm going to let everybody on the podcast listen and know this.
Okay.
So I'm dropping off all of our tables and chairs, and the place I'm dropping it off at, they were on their lunch break or whatever. And so I was like, that's cool. I'll just go grab some lunch. Well, I'm hauling this giant trailer with tables and chairs, like a 24-foot trailer with all the tables and chairs from the event. And so I park it across the street at like a Walgreens, and I walk across the street at the crosswalk. And the guy, like the little twirler guy, goes, "What does your shirt say?" And it's a, Contenders Fight Club, Contenders, shout out Roman and Contenders. And, and he goes, and I said that, and he goes, "Hey, I got a fight once. I beat a black belt. I was like, "Oh, good for you." Like, crazy dude. By the way, crazy. If somehow he ever sees this, you're crazy.
He's crazy.
He had a clean shaven on the right side of his face. In the left side of his face, he had a full mustache, beard, and goatee. So I'm like, guy does all the math, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, "You want to know how I beat him?" And I'm like, "How?" I'm just waiting for that crosswalk to start flashing. And he goes, "I just did what those guys did over there." And he pointed and he tried to get me to look. And I just looked at him. I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, but you got to look and see what those guys are doing over there." I was like,
Yeah, he was trying to set you up.
I'm like, this dude's trying to, I'll never turn my back to somebody that I don't know like that. Like, never, ever. And he goes, "Oh, you're pretty good." And he goes, "Yeah, usually I take my knife out and put the point of it on somebody's kidney to let them know I got him." And I'm trying to figure out if the guy has a knife too. And I'm just like, "Okay, freak. Cool." And he goes, "You must have learned that the hard way." I'm like, "Nope, just common sense. I just don't turn my back to people, dude."
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
And I walked. I'm saying, watching over my shoulder. I'm more worried about him running up behind me, stabbing me than
yeah.
I'm crossing the crosswalk.
Crazy.
Freaking psychos out there, dude.
Crazy. You just give him a little liver shot. Boom.
Head kick. Oh my God! Did you just imagine some guy just getting head kicked on the corner of a street, Bountiful, Utah?
Ooh. Dude, let's recap these fights. I'm so
thanks, Kent. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, man. Thank you everybody for coming out. It was crazy, man. I mean, we'll get to some of these fights, but like standing ovations, crazy, like nuts. Anyways, all right. We started off the night with Pedro Alcantara and Nate Reinhardt, and you never know. We talk about it all the time on the podcast. We're like, we don't know what these 0-0 guys are going to bring. We know Reinhardt. He out of Wasatch, right?
Yep.
He was out of Wasatch. Pedro was listed as an independent, but he did mention a jiu-jitsu gym afterwards. And he
what gym? I didn't hear what gym was it.
I couldn't catch it either. But I noticed when he said he was an independent, I was watching the fight. He tried an Ezekiel choke. Did you catch that?
I did see that. I was like, that's gonna be tough.
So
like, I mean, he knew, but he didn't quite know how.
He didn't quite know
the MMA gloves,
but he was trying. I was oh, look at him. So he comes out and he like shells up in the beginning. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be bad for Nate or for Pedro. And then he throws an overhand and rocks Reinhardt. And I'm like, oh man. And that was just a 3-round war from then on. It was crazy. Like first fight of the night, it's just bananas.
Was that unanimous or split?
Split, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I could be wrong, but it was
could have gone either way. It was
could have gone either way. Both guys were in trouble. Both guys were rocking each other. I mean, for 2 debuters, I mean, bananas, like bananas.
Mason gives it fight of the night. I mean, it had the place right. It started the night off right.
It started the night off right. I mean, there's a couple other ones on here. It was unanimous. Mason said. I mean, there's a couple other ones that we'll talk about, but it's up there. It's up there. 29-28. So next up we had Leandro, Lucian, and Brock Labrum. And this was another one that we actually interviewed a guy from Fusion who fought on the card, and we interviewed a guy from Agima, and they both said that the guys from their gym were going to both bring it. So you and I are just like, holy crap, like this is going to be a bananas fight. And same thing. And that one didn't disappoint. I'm like, who's going to win? Like, what do you do?
I'm shocked there wasn't a knockout in both of those first 2 fights.
Oh, yeah. The shots some of those guys were taking, that was just, yeah, that was crazy. Lucian ended up winning the decision on that one. And then I don't think I got this in order because I don't have the bout order. Was Mickelson fight or the Kulu fight next? Kulu fight was next, right? So Kulu and Alatini. Yeah, that was a banger too. I mean, Alatini came in there, and I think people, the optics were thinking this guy's going to get. I mean, he did end up getting finished, but he showed some really technical stand up, and he showed a lot of promise in there. Probably fighting out of his weight class too, fighting up a little bit.
No, they'll be just fine. He'll be just fine. A little bit more training, a little more consistent training in his schedule. I think he knows now what the expectation level of a fight camp is, which, but dude, he came in.
Yeah.
He knew he probably wasn't going to make weight.
Yep.
Asked for a catch weight. Kulu's camp gave him a number. He hit it right on the money.
Yep.
Showed up. Fought
and brought it he
brought it and gave his opponent plenty over a week's heads up on the weight. I actually thought everything was a really good learning lesson for him. He's going to be great
in his first fight. Yeah,
and Kulu's terrifying.
Kulu is terrifying. He is now 1-1 as an amateur, and you can see him kind of catching a little bit of stride. I'd love to see Hema back in there too after. He gets his nutrition dialed in a little bit, maybe at the right weight class, but he's going to be terrifying too.
Dude, him at 185, he'd be a crack.
What did he weigh in at? 215?
Yeah, they did catch weight at 215.
Oh, you get him at 185, he's scared because he took some shots and didn't even blink. He's just hey, I'm still here. Like,
you know, he remind me a little bit of
who's that?
Inslee.
Yeah. Didn't you yeah, I do remember him.
Smaller Kingsley.
Then we had the Mordecai and Mickelson fight, and that one looked like Mordecai was going to just walk away with a unanimous 30-27 victory because his wrestling was clearly dominant in the first and second round. And then Mickelson started landing a few shots. He started actually landing them in the second half of that second round. Every time Mordecai would shoot, he started hitting them. And if we showed you pictures of the fight, you would think Mickelson won the fight if you saw the pictures of the after, because he after the fight. But obviously, Mordecai did what he needed to do to win those first 2 rounds. But Mickelson, I mean, super impressive fighting a guy with that wrestling pedigree.
What a good test for both of them. Mordecai, right? The number 1 welterweight in Arizona, traveling out of state for the first time, going up a weight class to fighting another undefeated fighter. And then Mickelson, a 2-0 guy, hasn't fought anybody near as tough as Sebastian. And they put on a great, great fight. I didn't totally understand why the crowd was booing.
I don't think they like the decision. Obviously, Mickelson, it's a hometown fight for Mickelson.
Well, okay, but so for me though, that just doesn't make sense. Like, it just doesn't make sense to boo the fighter for me. Like,
Me neither. And I didn't like. I mean, I obviously said something when I was on the mic. I didn't like it, and he did what he needed to do those first 2 rounds. He controlled the fight, got the takedown. Freaking wrestlers, man. But yeah, Mickelson, I'm excited to see him back in there too, because he's an athlete. He is an athlete, and he showed some freaking punching power too.
We might be announcing that Mickelson might be making a quick turnaround,
Ooh.
and I think people will be very interested in the opponent if what is in the works comes through.
Yes. Next up, we had Munoz and DeGray, and DeGray. He looked. I mean, I didn't realize that guy had only had 1 fight before this because his striking looked good. Munoz he's experienced. He had what 7 fights, 6, 7 fights under his belt already.
7.
And it was a little stand up back and forth a little bit, but Jackson's striking and those leg kicks were just on point. Like he looked really good. I mean, he even got props from Joel Harrell, who was commentating. He liked those leg kicks, obviously. Yeah. But he's another guy that I think we're going to have to kind of watch out for, man. That he's a talented fighter.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of good 135ers.
We ended up losing the Trent Lee and Trent Lee Trevor Golden fight because Mr. Lee decided he wanted to back out the day of the weigh-ins.
Well, I mean, to be fair, like in transparent, Trent messaged me that morning and said he had a knee injury and he had to pull out. And it's a pretty hard sell when I'm messaging with one of his training partners who didn't know he had a knee injury.
Yeah.
It's like you trained with him and you didn't even know, but he's saying it was so bad he couldn't even shadow box. And I'm like, man, if I had a training partner and that I was worked closely with, if I was with, Cole Faust or whatever, and he had a significant injury,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure I'd know about it.
Yeah.
But not a good look. Whether he had an injury or not, that's not for us or me to anybody to decide.
Yeah.
But the lack of communication with the promotion and with your coaches and teammates, it just makes it so you look like you have a bad look. It's just a bad look.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a bad look, and it's bummed because Trevor had a lot of people there. He lost a lot of weight to get ready for this fight. Like he looked good, he looked ready. Yeah, hopefully we'll get to see Trevor in there soon. All right, then we started off with the amateur title fight. The bantamweight title fight first was David Kim and Edgar Sordo. Bananas fight. Like David comes out, lands a huge overhand.
Best comeback you've ever seen?
That was impressive. I mean,
all transparency. Edgar was down 30-26 going into that 4th round on the scorecards.
And David had his back multiple times, rear naked choke. Round. I mean, it was right in front of us. Like the choke was under the chin. That triangle was tight. And Edgar just hey, the guy's a stud, man. Like he fought through that. Ended up landing some hardened shots. And
shout out to Anthony Lobato and Bobby King. They had him ready, and Edgar coming off a long layoff.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say that.
I mean, I don't know, but dude, you know what it looked like in that 4th round?
Yeah,
kind of just looked like he was pissed.
Yeah,
he was just like, screw this. Like, I'm beat this kid.
He
had a gear to flip it into that David.
He did. He definitely flipped a switch there in those later rounds. You could see those punches were a little sharper in that 4th round. I mean,
David spent a lot of energy trying to get him out of there.
Yeah.
That suplex was sick. That might have been the best suplex I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, that was nasty. Hey, and David will be back. David will be back.
Oh yeah.
He's still one of my favorite fighters to watch. Just his attitude leading up to it. I mean, I've never seen a guy smile so much before a fight than David. Like he couldn't keep a smile off his face at the weigh-ins. And then he walks in the cage, he's got the same smile on his face. It's like this kid's loving it, man. He's loving the moment, he's
Walks
enjoying
out
it.
with some what
It was from Gladiator.
Opera.
Yeah, it was from Gladiator. Hey, we made that happen too. I didn't think we'd be able to find that, but we ended up finding that song for you, David.
Good for you.
Yeah. Those hammer fists said, "Quit grabbing my leg," but the suplex was the joke. Yeah, those hammer fists. And then the fight that brought the fans. I mean, they were already on their feet for all the other fights, but the fight,
this was my fight of the night.
Will Dean and Zane Darlington. These two guys, Zane controlled it for the first 2 rounds. Wrestling was controlling it, but then you started to see William Dean pick it up. I don't know if does he go by Willie. I just like to call him Willie. Sorry, Will, if you're mad. Willie D from the Ghetto
Don't
Boys.
Make him mad. He'll beat the brakes off you, boy.
I know. I've seen that shot, that overhand he landed. I want to stay away from that thing. But he started to get his jab out there in that 3rd round and started touching Zane a little bit, and it was cool. I don't know if you could hear it, but they were talking back and forth to each other. I couldn't tell what was being said, but yeah, Zane was pointing at him a couple times every time he missed something, and but yeah, William Dean with the big shot ended up getting the KO, and he is now your amateur lightweight champion for the Fierce Challenger Series.
Yeah. So there'll be a Fierce Fighting Championship, like amateur champion, but it was a Challenger Series. So yeah, it's not like he's a Challenger Series champion.
Yeah,
but
and those two will be defending at the Maverick Center, right?
Probably. It's up to them, but yeah, they if they want their next fights to be at the Maverick Center, they absolutely have earned that right.
They both, with those performances, I'd say they definitely earned it.
I don't know for sure if this is fair, but I just think that Zane had the fight in where he wanted it so much.
Yeah.
I don't know if he relaxed or started to underestimate Will, but Will does a couple things exceptionally well.
Yeah.
And one of those is he stays incredibly composed. Whether he's winning or losing, he executes a game plan. I've seen him do it multiple fights now where he just executes game plans to a T. And
well, you could hear Ace and Christian in Zane's corner. I hope I'm not speaking out of place, but it didn't sound like they were too high. It sounded like Zane was getting a little bit off of the game plan a little bit with some of the things that he was doing in there, maybe getting a little too comfortable, a little too relaxed. And look, he's a young kid. He'll come back. The guy's got he's talented. But yeah, shout out to William Dean, man. That was, if that place was going nuts after that knockout, crazy.
Yeah, Will's.
Yeah, he actually messaged me, and I think he was trying to work on his stand up a little bit more, and try to show he has some stand up in that fight. Zane, I'm talking about Zane.
Yeah.
And he kind of went away from the wrestling that won him those first 2 rounds. Dude, look, the kid will be back, man. They're both studs.
Full studs for sure.
But Mr. Dean is our lightweight champion. And you know what else was awesome about that venue is all the fighters were up top of the bleachers and they got to watch their teammates fighting, and it was freaking cool, man. It was such a cool environment. And then next fight up, we had Iron Will Gibson and Alden Ashcroft. And that was a very technical, which we thought very technical stand-up fight. This is exactly what we talked about.
I didn't know how it would go. I mentioned to somebody before, I said, I actually think that fight will go to a decision. I think both of them's fight IQ was so good that they'd just be playing a chess match, and they did that Will just did a few things that Alden just couldn't quite either find his rhythm or have an answer for.
Yeah.
There'll be footage up of that real soon.
I don't know how Alden makes 170 because he is freaking
phenomenal.
He is ginormous for 170. I'm like,
And he's about the
geez.
same size as Zane Darlington.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, and Zane makes 155. I'm
I
like,
know, it's
dude.
crazy.
Ooh.
No, but Alden, I think, yeah, it just
And
wasn't his night.
for those that haven't seen Will Gibson before, we've had an opportunity to watch him before and call his fight. And we had a little backstory from him from Mr. Chris Curtis, kind of told us his little backstory. And the guy he's talented, man.
Fight.
He can fight. He
You know,
very high fight IQ.
He's come up to Salt Lake now and beating Johan Rubio and Alden Ashcroft.
They're probably our two best 170ers. I mean, I can't think of another 170er that we have.
Right.
I mean, who else is there at 170 locally that's better than those two guys?
That's just clear cut better.
It's clear cut better. We have to search because I don't know it right off the top of my head.
Yeah. So that was a good. I mean, that's a
Carson Hardman.
Carson just has a ton more experience, right?
He has a lot more experience. I think Will. Oh, there it is, right there. There's our guy, Scott Bowler, 170. Iron Will Gibson versus Scott Bowler at 170. Maverick Center, June 25th. Scott, you better start cutting right now. Get in the sauna.
Oh my gosh.
Man.
Thanks, Scott. We have no, I mean, guys, yeah, let's not get too ahead of it. Will's 2-0. That's a great start.
He's 2-0. Great start.
Very promising. I think he has a bright future. Let's calm down. Like Carson's the man. He's been doing it here for a long time and has gone to other shows and knocked people out with those hands. I think the world of Carson. So yeah, I think, yeah, but I mean, Will's on his way. Will is on his way.
He's at a good camp.
That could be a fun fight down the road. We'll get some more wins, you know.
Then we had our main event, Marco Sanchez and the greatest Greg Ellis coming up from Las Vegas.
And Carson and Will are managed by the same people though, so that fight probably.
They fight they do that all the time.
On regional shows.
Yeah. So Greg Ellis, Marco Sanchez, main event. Greg came up here from Vegas and got the win. He's a huge 185 or two.
Can you imagine him at 170?
I'm standing next to him in the cage and he's like, I need a bigger bed next time. I'm like, dude, you can have whatever you want. Just don't freaking throw one of those head kicks at me, bro. Like, holy crap. Nicest guy in the world. Super nice, super respectful.
You know what I loved about that show?
Yeah.
Every single fighter was cool.
You know, and I have to say this on air because we talked a lot. There was a lot of first-time people there. The show is in Orem, out of high school. Very grateful for them and they all loved it. Our cage side doctor had never been to the fights before. And the first thing he said to me was, I did not realize that everybody was going to be so respectful towards each other after they got through fighting. And I said, that's the misconception about MMA. And I think once people start seeing that, hey, this isn't just some barbaric, barroom brawl, smash beer bottles over each other's head and walk away. It's like, no, these guys are, for a lot of these guys, this is their life. This is how these guys are making a paycheck. These guys are training 3-4 hours a day, their nutrition, their sleep. I got a chance to sit and chat with Zane and Christian while he was cutting his weight on Friday. And Christian was just telling me how regimented he is with everything, diet, sleep, training. It's like, that's impressive.
Well, we're seeing it now, right? We're seeing it. These guys, I think the majority of fighters are starting to. It used to be the problem was too many fighters were just brawler, tough guys.
Yeah.
One discipline, and even if it wasn't discipline, they could just hit hard and take shots, right?
Yep.
And just kind of brawlers or just a wrestler or whatever.
Yep.
I think the tide's gotten turned now where even on the regional scene, if you want to do this, there are more guys that look at themselves in the mirror and say, I'm an I'm a future professional athlete or I'm a professional athlete. So they're starting to live their life like that now rather than just, like just who cares? Like, it's like the difference between like the NFL players that get fat during the off season and then have to get back in shape, or the ones that
Yeah.
show up in shape,
Yeah.
right? Or, the basketball players that, get out of shape and have to get back in shape. Now we're starting, and for fights, I mean, I think there's still a lot of fighters that they get completely out of shape and then have to get back in shape.
Yeah.
And then that mantra of like, you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. That's starting to become like this, like the way it is now. Like if you want to be serious in this sport, like
Yeah.
the pinnacle for me is Cole Faust, right? Like I look at
Yeah.
him.
Yep.
He's not a fighter when he's in fight camp. It's his job. I mean, it's 24/7, 365. Now, I mean, he eats a little bit better and stuff and can cheat a little when he's not in fight camp, but that kid's never out of control. That kid's never, not ready. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they're professional athletes now, and they look like it.
It's starting. Obviously, you're giving props to the fighters, and it's starting at the gyms too. Every gym is, I mean, top to bottom, from Utah, from Ogden to St. George.
Logan.
We have some Logan to St. George. We have some very good, talented coaches.
Oh yeah,
and fighters. I mean, I don't care where you are, Tooele, wherever you are, you can go and sorry, you can go and get high quality training. Cole Chubby Cheeks.
Tony, I'm here. Let me just.
You can screenshot that and send it to him.
I'm gonna send it to him.
But no, man, I'm super impressed. Super grateful for Agima for letting us hold the weigh-ins at their gym. There were 6 fighters from Agima there on the card. There was, what do we have, 3 from Wasatch. It was just phenomenal. Just a great night, great atmosphere. Everybody loved it. Yeah, it was great, man. I was blown away by everything that night. It was great. I can't wait for the next one. When's the next one? Let's have another one. Can we do it again next weekend?
Go for it.
It was definitely a long day for us, but it was well worth it by the end of the night.
I'm still tired.
We tried to go get some food afterwards, but it's a little difficult to get food in Orem at 11 o'clock at night.
When you're pulling a 24-foot trailer and
then your other buddy
blows out
their tire running over a curb. Well, you know why he did that, right? We got to blame that on you, because you took the wrong turn and then turned left on the one-way. You turned on the one-way. That was a one-way you turned on.
It's not my fault. You didn't have to follow me.
He didn't. He turned right to go on the one-way and had to make a U-turn back.
Exactly. I looked up. I was smart enough to look up and realize there's no way I was making that turn pulling a 24-foot trailer.
No, you definitely
go down the wrong way.
You made the right decision, but there were starting to be cars coming. So I turned right and I'm like, okay, I'll go up. And I saw the curb.
Not me, dog. No way.
I saw the curb, but the guy behind me clearly didn't and blew out his tire. Sorry, Sajin. Oh, man.
Just thank you to everybody that came and helped. It's a good team effort.
It's great effort. Mason, Trunzo, you guys are awesome. Mandy, shout out to Mandy. Shout out to Critical Fit CBD in Asia, who this is the second time now she has helped. Bailed me out, man. When I've been in like Maverick Center, I'm going crazy, getting the booth set up. I can barely walk because my knee's jacked up, and she's running around helping me get tickets to people. She helped run my booth for me. Huge shout out to Critical Fit CBD. I put the website down there. Use the code DamagePlan20. You can get 20% off all your CBD products. Those guys are freaking amazing. Love those guys, and a sponsor of the show. So,
absolutely.
And of course, Mason. Of course,
we will have you, Mason.
So June 25th, Maverick Center, right?
Yeah. Watch online for the little teaser poster.
Can we say the main event?
The main event?
I already dropped the main event and the co-main event on U92. Sorry.
Sure.
You can yell at me after we're off air, but I did.
Yeah, the main event is Fabio from Team Link.
I don't know, Scott. You better fill out your medicals.
Our main event is Fabio Sorrell from Team Link versus Amarsana. I'm not going to say his last name. The Mongol for our vacant pro lightweight title.
That's
going to be. I think that fight is bonkers, as I like to say.
That's a fight you see on like a UFC undercard. Like that's a very high level fight.
Yeah, it'll be really
Two
good.
pros that have been around. The Mongolian fought in one. Fabio's been around.
It's 11-7 versus 8-3. It'll be a really good fight.
It's a very high level pro fight.
And then our co-main event will be Benmo is coming to the Maverick Center, and he will be fighting a newly crowned pro heavyweight champ from another promotion. His name's Cameron Chisholm. He's 3-1. Very good striker as well. And those two big boys are going to get in there for the co-main event and put on a show.
That's going to be good. Okay, so
Jerome Hatch will be on the card.
What?
Casey Radden's coming back to Salt Lake City. Our boy Dom Salas.
Hey, shout out to Dom. He looked phenomenal. He's been changing up some things with his diet. He looked great at the fights. Yeah. He's made some lifestyle changes. Dom, props, Dom. I love seeing it, brother. Keep doing what you're doing.
Eli Barzeas, Natan Levy's protege.
We've seen him fight up here before. Watch out for that kid.
Lehigh Dominguez will be back in the fierce cage. Nicole Fuga from Magima will be back in the cage on a full camp this time at 145 pounds this time. And no, at 155. I'm sorry, at 155.
Nicole sang the national anthem last weekend. She crushed it
with the national anthem.
I'm like, what? She can fight and sing? Like, what?
We do have an amateur title fight, amateur featherweight title fight. Yeah. Zack Hamilton versus Raymond Lawley from SPG Idaho is coming down. It's 3-0. June 25th is going to be sick. We got some combat jiu-jitsu just got approved.
Oh, yes, that's right. Can we say who it is? Who's doing the combat jiu-jitsu match? Can I say it?
Yeah.
So Samson Famabot against Warren Weingooder. Did I say his name right?
So
Weingooder. Warren from Mori Academy. He's legit. These guys have actually grappled against each other about 3 years ago at PGI. This is going to be good. That's going to be a great fight. Steve Seiler was in the house. Hey, I got to give a shout out to Blake. Blake and Joel Haro were commentating, and Blake came dressed up like John Anik. He had 18 pages of notes. He did a phenomenal job. I ended up getting to call one fight with him. I can't wait to call more fights with Blake because when you originally told me we had a new guy coming in to commentate, I'm like, dude, I don't want another new guy commentating. Who is this kid? And I met him at the weigh-ins. I was like, I really like this kid, and he's good. You could tell he's passionate about it.
He'll be on the mic June 25th at the Maverick Center.
I actually had a talk with him, and we're actually gonna have him come on the podcast a couple times and help out with some interviews, some fill in if you or I are busy. But he did a great job, man. He was very well prepared. And I don't know if you saw how animated he was, but he's going to fit right in when he's getting out of his seat and he's checking for angles. And it was great, man. It was a very fun night. So all the fights were matched. I had somebody tell me there wasn't one fight where once the fight started, I was like, oh, this guy's going to kill this guy. I was like, I don't know who's going to win. In the first minute of the fight, I don't think there was one fight where you could say, I think this guy's going to win.
Tried my best.
Oh, Scott Bowler. Oh man. Hey, your fight of the night was Dean and
Darlington. Yep.
I'm gonna go with Reinhardt and Alcantara. I'm gonna say knockout of the night. Definitely William Dean. Ellis had a pretty good knockout too, because that one was almost at the buzzer. It was right at the 10
seconds. It was like the 10-second clapper.
Right at the 10-second clapper.
I'm not mistaken.
But yeah, comeback of the night, Edgar Sordo with the comeback. Every fight was good.
You could almost give David Kim a performance of the night with how phenomenal he looked.
I hate to be the next guy he fights because you know how much he's going to learn from that, and he's just going to come back even better.
Yeah.
It's good.
Good learning experience all the way around.
What else do we got? We got anything else? We covered everything. You didn't watch the fights. I watched a couple of them.
I didn't watch any UFC fights. Yeah. Guess what? I'm starting to admit it. I'm cooling on some of the fight nights. Not that they aren't good, not that they're not great, that I would love to be entertained, but matchmaking and doing all this all the time. I like some weekends. I'm good on the MMA stuff.
When we're having to drive down to Provo and be there at 4:00 for weigh-ins and stay there till 9, I was up at 4. I could not sleep. I was up at 4 a.m. on Saturday, and then we're at the high school from 11 till what time did we get out of there? 11:30, 11. That was after breaking everything down. Fights were over with by 9. So quick, easy, fun night. It's the beginning of the end, Zach.
I feel it coming.
It's it's hard.
Watching every UFC card have probably come to an end for me.
Yeah. Hey man, I can't wait for June 25th. Fans will definitely be in for a treat with having some jiu-jitsu matches on there.
Couple women's tournaments before the card. So if you want to come early to the fights, that'll get announced. But if you want to come early to the fights, you'll be able to come early and watch some high-level jiu-jitsu matches. Thanks, Dutch. And
shout out to Dutch Dutch, Dan, and Steven all improvising. They're sitting on 12 packs of Cokes so they could see the action. They all come walking in with the 12 packs, and I'm like, what do you guys? I'm thinking they're like mixing drinks or something. I don't know what these guys are doing. And I look over there, and they're all sitting on two 12 packs of Cokes, just sitting up there, man. We have the best judges.
A little high up, but yeah,
we have the best judges. And no, they weren't drinking.
Diet Dr. Pepper.
The fans probably thought they were drinking after the Mordecai fight and Drew Mickelson fight, but they definitely weren't. They got that right. Hey, Dutch, watch that Caitlin Vieira and Holly Holm fight, Dutch, and let me know what you think. And if Farragher's listen first, if you guys are listening, watch that fight and give me your opinion. I posted about it in the group. Don't disagree with the decision. I don't agree or disagree. I'll just say it wasn't a robbery. Let's just say that.
That word probably gets thrown around a little too much.
Yeah, robbery. DC was complaining about Jackson Wink posted something, and it's like,
Jackson might be a little biased.
He's definitely a little biased. And I'm like, you weren't saying that on any of the John Jones's last couple fights, but hey.
DC, I don't know. It's whatever.
I try not to listen to the commentary, but even listening to the commentary, Felder, Anik, every one of them said, hey, Vieira's landing the harder shots. Holly's rushing in. And every time she would rush in, she threw the same combinations, and she got caught coming in every time. Hard shots. But anyways, we already said that. All right. We'll be back probably Friday for a quick breakdown. What do we got this Friday? Who's fighting this
breakdown? And then I think we'll try and get Ace, Aaron Reyes.
Oh, yeah. Let's get him on. Let's get him on Friday.
Let's get him on Friday. He has a new fight, not new fight promotion, bringing back his old fight promotion. Crown Fighting Championships in St. George, August 27th.
It's in Hurricane. Is it in Hurricane?
Hurricane, St. George.
Is that the same?
Pretty much. Same diff for me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thanks, Dutch.
They have a nice little team down there, man. I had a really good time chatting it up.
They're all so nice. They're all so cool. That was the best thing about the weekend for me. Everybody was so nice and cool, respectful of their opponents. Like, dude, it was all good. Like that was what MMA should be for me. Like that was my favorite thing about the weekend. I think is that we didn't have anything that goes, oh, this isn't a good look on the sport. We didn't have one thing.
And we got new eyes on the sport, and that's something you and I talked about when we started this podcast. One, we wanted to do this for the fighters, for the local MMA community here in Utah. And two, our goal was We wanted to bring new eyes to the sport, not just the same, hey, if Zack's fighting, I'm going to come watch Zack fight. No, we wanted the guy that's sitting home on a Saturday night that doesn't realize that we have great fights here locally that you can come watch for $25
all the time now.
All the time. I mean,
all over the state now. Royals back. We've always had good fights in Salt Lake County. Now we'll start getting good fights traveling around the state again, and it's going to be good.
The MMA scene in Utah it's
good.
The first in the corners only had a water bottle. I didn't even notice that.
Dude, Pedro only had a water bottle. No bucket, no anything.
I'm not gonna lie. When I saw you never judge a book by its cover, Pedro. I'm not no disrespect. I judged him a little bit. I'm like, Pedro, he's independent. Like, who is this guy? Super impressive. Like, just don't judge a book by its cover, man. Pedro, I can't wait to see Pedro back in there. Yeah. I want to see him finish that Ezekiel choke.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, we'll get out of here. Thank you guys. Thank you everybody for showing up. Thank you everybody for the support. You guys are awesome. We